Sweet deal. How's everyone doing out there? I hope you're doing well. My name is Chris Steininger. I'm a Lego master model builder. I work here in Enfield, Connecticut. Well, right now I'm actually working out of my home in Massachusetts, but my main location is Enfield, Connecticut, where we design, build, and create all the large-scale sculptures like you would see at any Legoland park or at a Lego store. So I'm one of the few that actually can say get paid to play with Lego for a living. I've been doing it for 13 years now, and it's been fun. I can't say that I've had a dull day for sure at work. We get to be involved with some really awesome projects all over the world, and it's just really a ton of fun to play with Lego for a living. So I'm actually going to pass it over now to my coworker, Pete Donner, who is going to introduce himself and what he does.
Hey everybody, like Chris said, I hope you're having a great day. My name is Pete Donner, and just like Chris, I'm a master model builder. I too work out of Enfield, Connecticut, but as you can tell by my surroundings, I'm also found in my studio, my art space at home. And yeah, we're here today to share some of the tips and tricks that we as master builders use to design, build, and create some of these amazing life-size models. In this example, we're going to show you guys a small car, give you some tips on how to build it, and maybe some encouragement that will help you get through some of the challenging parts along the way. Yeah, so a little bit more about my background. I'm a fine artist. That means that the stuff I do for Lego is not what you get in the stores when you purchase a set. Chris is also a fine artist who focuses on the event aspect of what we do. So if you want an example of Chris or I's work, just look into any of the theme parks like Legoland or Disney, where we have models of life-size characters. That's typically where we focus. Like I said, today we're going to show you guys some really cool tips and tricks on how to build things like cars and vehicles. We're going to show you something in system, which is the bricks that are smaller and for some of the older kids. And we're also going to share Chris's specifically some information about Duplo. So without further ado, I'm going to give you guys, if I can figure the zoom out, an example of.
Hold on, we got to let Sam in here real quick. Hold on, we got to introduce our best buddy Sam real quick, who's going to take all your questions. So go ahead, Sam, introduce yourself.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Sam, and I'm going to be in the Q&A section. So if you have any questions at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A button. Go ahead and type your questions there. Later on in the session, we'll be asking Chris and Pete questions about their background, about life as a master model builder, any tips or tricks, advice you'd like. So please go ahead and go to the Q&A and type any questions that you have there for us. And of course, we also encourage you that as we're building, to be as creative as you'd like. If you don't have exact pieces or exact colors, please, we'd love to see any creative builds that you're making. And don't forget to head over to social media after the session and share all those cool creations with us using hashtag Lego and hashtag MakeItWithMichaels. So just head to the Q&A and I'll meet you there.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam, for getting us caught up on that. And without further ado, I'm going to show you guys, this is the car that we're going to walk you through.
Woohoo!
Cool. It's really important to take note of what Sam just said. That's my way of saying, if you're building this car, I'm going to start out and I'm going to have an image of the parts you'll need to build it if you wanted to do it exactly. But since we're all building at home, we might not have all the parts that are on the list. So just like Sam said, feel free to dig through your bucket and find a different wheel or windscreen or windshield, whatever you want to call it, bumper piece, and really just have fun with it. What we're trying to teach you guys here is the foundation of how to make a car. Again, I'll give you some tips as we're going through the instructions and some insight as to why I did things the way I did, or information as to why I did things the way I did. But really, without further ado, this is just about having fun, giving you guys a walkthrough. Maybe you'll end up with a car that looks like this, or maybe you'll end up with a car that's a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fun. So here we go. I'm going to take you guys into the process. So this here is called a bill of materials. This is the collection of parts that you're going to need to build the car we're doing. These instructions, bill of materials, and image of the car, I believe will be emailed to everybody who is subscribed to be in this course today. I'm going to take my time and go slow, but I might miss people. People may join after the fact. So again, this will be made available. So without further ado, we're going to start on step one, because that's where all good journeys begin. And this here is a little walkthrough of the building instructions page as it's laid out. So you see the number of the step you're on up in the left-hand corner, screen right, for those who speak that way. And then you see this blue box with a image of an element inside of it. That's called a vignette box. All Lego instructions have this. And the way that you utilize this box, or you get benefit from it, is you make sure that before you start step one, you have the parts that are shown in that step. And then when all those parts are no longer there, that means you've completed the step and you can go on to step 2 or whatever the subsequent step would be. So right now we're starting with a 2x6 plate. We're doing this because when you make a car out of Lego, the most common error that people make is they don't make a base that's solid from the front set of wheels to the back set of wheels. So when you use this piece, you'll see on the next step, we're gonna put the axle wheel holder on the ends. That's gonna make your car strong. So if you push down on the center of it, it doesn't just pop apart. So that's tip number 1. And again, this is called a 2x6, and it's a plate because a plate is 1/3 the height of a brick. So 3 plates stacked will equal a brick. And this is a 2x6. Why is it a 2x6, you ask? Because there's 2 studs in one direction and 6 in the other. So without further ado, we're on to step 2. I didn't even mean to make that. Just
Hey, Pete, that's kind of a point that they can make there too, is that when we talk, we always say the smallest number first. When we talk about our bricks, we want to go a 6x2. We would always say a 2x6 or a 2x4 or so on. So
yeah, that's a very good point. And we did something a little bit unique in these building instructions to try to help out some of the younger builders who may be transitioning from a Duplo system to a Lego system. You'll notice that the brick that has been added, which I'm assuming you guys can see my screen. Am I crazy to think that?
No, they can see it. I can see it.
Awesome, fantastic. So you'll see there's a red outline on the piece that we're adding. And in each step, to keep it simpler, I'm adding only 1 or 2 pieces. And that way we can make sure that as you're building the car out, you're getting the pieces that you need and you're putting them where they belong. This is an example of a piece that may be a little bit less common than a 2x6, meaning you might not have this piece. So you're going to want to look for a piece that will do the same task. It might be a 1x2 with the axle coming off. It may be an axle that just looks different, is wider or shorter. This is where you can take some creative opportunities and change the model to meet what you have. So with step 2 completed, you're going to go on to step 3.
Pete,
Now,
I'm going to show my version later of the car that's very different. It's pretty close. It's on the same lines, but it's definitely different. You'll get to see mine at the end.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait.
An alt build.
That's right. On this step, it's a little bit tricky, and I'm glad we have the outlines. But if you look in the vignette box, you'll see it's a 1x2 with slider plate on it. That's the technical term. But basically, it's just a 1x2 plate, and there's a little bit of extra plastic coming off the side, which gives it a detail. So as a designer, shape really matters to how your final model looks. So by adding this little bit of detail, it changes the sides of the car and gives it a little more interest, makes it cooler, funner to look at. But you're going to notice there's 2 of them. So make sure you guys grab 2 pieces, and it can be 2 1x2s or 1 2x2. But again, if you don't have these exact parts, change it and have fun with it. I can't wait to see what you guys make when we're all done going through the steps. I'm going to go to step 4. And as I get there, I'm going to remind, if anyone new has shown up, I'm Pete. This is Chris. We're Master Model Builders for Lego. And we're taking you guys through a build process for a small Lego car. And again, the instructions, I believe, will be made available to anyone who signs up for the class and provides an email address, a bill of materials, and an image of what the car that we're building looks like. But we really encourage everybody to take these instructions and bend them and twist them to meet the parts you have or the image or vision you have for your own car. Share that on social media at Make It With Michaels or #Lego. And Chris and I will definitely get a chance to see it. And we love seeing what you guys come up with. So step 4 is very similar to step 2. We're adding a 2x2 with axle, and those are going to be really important. And as I go on to step 5, you're going to see that step 5, I don't add the wheels. I'm not adding the wheels yet because this is pro tip number 2. You want to keep a flat base. That way you're not pushing and having gravity pop pieces off as you're pressing down. So this is a good way. When I was a kid, I would always just stick the wheels on right at the beginning. And I strongly suggest, and I bet you Chris would agree with me, that you save something like that for the last step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Step 5 here we're introducing, it's called a angle plate. And this is a newer element. These didn't exist when Chris and I were kids, like 3 or 4 years ago. You can tell by our white beards. This is a really cool part. This part allows us to take the bricks and change the facing direction, or to take them, and we call it building sideways. I think Chris refers to it as snot building.
Oh, come on. You throw me under the bus with that one?
You're right under there. We call it snot building because it studs not on top. But it's a really cool way of adding detail and interest to your models. Again, as a designer, that's my primary focus, is form meeting function and aesthetic being top notch. So this is a way for you to get that or to add more detail. So moving on to
Hey.
step, oh, go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Pete, I'm just going to throw something out there just to reiterate that if you guys do not have the right pieces and you're having trouble building along with us at this speed that we're going at, we understand. It's totally fine. This is something that is a little difficult, finding pieces and stuff like that. So feel free, throw in whatever pieces you have there. And if you can't follow along exactly with these instructions, use some of the skills that Pete's talking about through this process by starting with a nice solid platform like the 2x6, and use some of those skills that Pete's talking about in your build. And then we'll still, I think towards the end here, we'd like to see some of the models that you guys have built in this time frame. But then these instructions will be given to you later, so you can go ahead and go back there and actually build this actual model. So.
Yeah, exactly. Or again, I actually strongly encourage you take the model and make it what you think it should be. That when I was a kid, I was the worst at building kits. I would learn what they were trying to teach me by building it once, and then I would dismantle that and I'd make my own thing. So I'm really encouraging you in process, as you're building, do that, change it, make it what you think it should be. So here on step 6, we're adding a tile. Now this is a lot like the gray plates, except without the side detail, except it's missing the stud. And the reason I'm putting that on the front is, again, it gives you a really nice smooth surface, and it starts to look like the front bumper of a car or the rear bumper of a car. This is going to go on the angle plate. You can notice that it's going opposite directions of the stud you can see on top. That's where that plate really shines, and you get the advantage of using it. So moving on to step number 7, now we're getting to a classic. This is called an Evergreen Brick. It's a 2x4. And what this brick is doing, pro tip number 3, is it's encapsulating. That's a adult word for saying it's connecting the 2 axle plates. So just like we put the strong support on the bottom, now we're putting this across the top. And although it doesn't go from end to end, it covers all of the seams, which the seams are when 2 bricks are sitting next to each other. The line that creates can be a weak point. By putting this 2x4 across, we're covering all of those seams and we're making it nice and strong. And Chris will tell you, normally we have time in these sessions and we'll share some interlocking. So maybe Chris can go over that real quick towards the end. But
Absolutely.
That's the ultimate tip that we want every young builder to learn, because without interlocking, your models won't stay together very well and it won't be fun to play with, and it'll be a real challenge to build the whole time. So Chris will give you some of that at the end. Moving on to step number 8. Now we're flipping the car around. So you can tell that because if you look at step 6 or 7 rather, you have the flat tile. Now when you go to step 8, which I'll figure out how to roll the mouse in a second, it's now to the back and we're putting an angle plate on the front. So it's really important that when you go from step 7 to step 8, you take your build and you turn it around so the flat tile is now facing away from you. Now we're going to put another angle plate on the front. Once that's down, we go to step number 9. And here's where we're going to add a front versus the back of the car. So by putting this grill on the front, now you know what is the rear side of the car or the back, and you know what the front's going to be. So now we've defined visually what our car is going to look like for the first time. And we also have a completely smooth base. So all those red studs, that's a flat building surface. That's perfect for the next step, as you'll see when we go to step number 10. For those of you guys who are wondering, this element is called a grill plate. That's the technical name, and for somewhat obvious reasons. This can be the front grill of a car, or it can actually be the grill in a hibachi or gas grill if you're building one for your minifigures.
I love some good hibachi.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? That's a real life lesson for kids. So here on step 10, we're adding our first transparent element. And as you can tell, it's to the rear of the car and the slope is facing away from us. That is going to create the back windscreen of the car or windshield of the car, depending on what you call it. In the Lego system world, that would be called the windscreen for whatever reason. But as we know it here in the States, it's what we call a back windshield. Moving on, again, if you don't have a clear 2x2, as Chris and I keep reiterating and Sam started this session with, change it to, it doesn't even have to be a slope or roof brick. It can just be a regular brick. It can be black, it could be green, whatever you have. If you have 2 different color 1x2s, you can switch it to that as well. Whatever you have, use it and make sure that you're just having fun and enjoying the process. Moving to the next step. So here visually, I wanted to create a break. So you've got a sense that there is a back of the car and a front of the car, just like you'd see on a real automobile. There's usually a break between the front and back on a 4-door car. That's what you would see. So I just added it and incorporated it here. And again, we're building from back to front because it allows us to follow and get it the parts where they should go without moving forward a stud or off a stud, and then not being able to finish the build. On to step number 12. We're going and we're now repeating what we did on the back and the front, with the exception of we're mirroring it. So we're taking the angle, and instead of going away from us, we're bringing the angle towards us. And now you can really start to see the car taking shape. So at this point, this is when it gets really fun. It's like when you're doing a drawing or a painting and you get past your underdrawing, and now you've shored up your lines and you've got your color where you need it, and your drawing is really starting to look like what you envisioned it in your brain. Same thing happens with Lego, and here on step 12, we're starting to experience that. On to step number 13. Now you can see I'm showing you a second use for the same element. Earlier on step, I believe it was 3, we put these pieces in here, and we use that to create a little detail that bumps out some of the width of the automobile. I'm using that same element on top to create the hood of the car. And again, it aligns almost to the front of the grille, and it gives us some really cool shape. But if you don't have these parts, again, this could have been any other 1x2 element. It could have been a bow piece, which is kind of rounded, or it could have been a tile, or you could have left it off. It's really, Lego is the most flexible, fun toy in the world as I see it. I'm sure Chris would probably not argue that point.
Yeah, you can pretty much build anything.
Yep. And as we move on to step 14, we close off the top of the car. Instead of just using one 2x3 plate, I use this new, I think it's only a year or 2 old. It's a 2x2 plate with 2 studs. So you have a tiled section in the front, meaning it's smooth, and then you have the studs. And the reason I put this in there is because if you wanted to transition this car, change this car, make it something different, you could easily plug on a red and blue light piece, and now it's a police car. You could put a bar across the top of it, and it's a taxi cab. You could make it a ice cream truck by putting a little 1x1 or a half stud and an ice cream cone piece on there. So this is, again, where you just add flexibility or add possibilities to your car or your vehicle or whatever you're building by making some decisions, like making this section a 2x2 with studs as opposed to just a tile. Adds flexibility, and the studs actually add a level of detail that you wouldn't have otherwise. As we move on to step 15, so I know I'm going
Pete,
back.
I'm just going to interject here real quickly. I'm just going to put a reminder out there to everyone that we would like you to put your questions into the Q&A form, and Sam will answer them to the best of her ability. And then if there's something that she can't answer, Pete and I will answer that as well. So just make sure you send those into the Q&A section, please.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
And if you have a question specific to Chris or I that you want to know about our job or our background or our experience, again, same place you put the other questions, and Sam will pose those to us once we get through the build, which we're just about there. As I move on,
we're getting close.
Yeah, get to step 15. You'll see now your wheels in the Lego kits typically come in 2 parts, but I've shown them on the car completed without the step of assembling them, because I'm willing to bet if you're pulling parts out of your own inventory or your own supply of Lego, you know, everyone's got that fun box of mixed brick, you probably already got your wheels assembled. But this is where you're going to take the wheels, you're going to put them on. It's safe and sound because you're no longer building and putting pressure onto the top and middle of the car. This is where the car goes from the building process to the playing process. So now you get to have fun with it. Now you can roll it around on the carpet. You could go alter it, change it. This is where really the rubber hits the road. This whole thing has been me building up to that comment. But no, this is hopefully giving you guys some insights and some ideas as to why we do what we do. Also going to give you some roadmap building instruction to how you can get here. And again, I can't see what you guys have created on your own. I know there's probably a lot of people that this was a really fast building process, so I'll remind those who are either late to the process or are struggling to keep up. We're going to try to get the building instructions to you so you can all do this again in your own time. And when you complete that, make it with Michaels, #Lego, share it on social media, and Chris and I will take a look at it and give you some feedback in this session, or otherwise we might just really get inspired by what you guys are doing. But now that we've gone through the car, Chris is going to take some of the younger kids through and show, he's going to start off by showing his car, and then he's going to go into sharing his Duplo spaceships that he's got. I think he's made 1 or 2 of these.
Yeah, so absolutely. So how about we just talk, so Pete just threw up an image there that I think is more for inspiration when it comes to the younger kids who are just really starting to get into the Lego building environment. And this is definitely something where mom and dad can really get involved with. It's all about mom and dad playing with their kids in this instance. Obviously, today's theme was modes of transportation, and a spaceship or a rocket ship definitely fits right in there as far as the mode of transportation. So here's a few good examples of that, and then I can actually show you now my version of it. So if I don't know if we're still spotlighted, there we go. So I made a rocket as well. If you guys can see that there, it looks very similar to what was done via those building instructions there, but it's got my own little style to it. It's got a little eyeball up top there. I don't know why, but he's got one, and it's got some different colors. But it's what I had hanging around for Duplo. So that goes for the cars you're about to build and that you have been building. It's not necessarily about following the instructions to the T in this situation. It's about being creative, stepping outside of the comfort zone that you're used to, and build something that's cool and interesting to yourself. So use these building instructions as a jumping off point, really, and go ahead and customize it any way you like. So I have my version of the car that Pete designed here, and I put on a grill, so I have some of the similar things. I didn't have some of the small tires like Pete had, so I put on these really big, massive tires. It almost looks more like a what do you think, like a monster truck almost. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, no, it looks great.
Yeah.
It's
put a little spoiler on the back there as well.
But you look at that and you can see where Chris took some of what we've created in the building instructions for the other car and he made it work with what he had. And yeah, it's a really good example. You can see that he had to use totally different axles, totally different wheels, but the overall shape of the car is still very similar to the one that we built. So great inspiration, Chris. Great example of how you could take that. You could take the rocket ship, for instance. When I first looked at it, because this is my first viewing of his rocket ship too, I've seen the rendered ones. It really looks a lot like it, but then when you start digging down and the differences and the decisions he made, this is how he expressed himself through Lego and made it his own. And we really want you guys to do the same. As master model builders, that's our focus, that's our goal, is not just to inspire, but to help inform and educate the next level of master model builders. So our job is to put ourselves out of work, right, Chris? It's about getting ready, capable.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's face it, Pete, we're we have a really awesome job, and we really do enjoy what we do. But the fan community, which is all you guys out there building, can build way more models and be just as creative as us over a year. So we only have so much time to devote to building with Lego, where we have tens of thousands of Lego fans out there that are hopefully creating awesome, cool Lego content. And hopefully you leave this event here and are inspired enough to jump into that Lego bin at home and really just create something new and awesome using your Lego bricks.
Yeah.
So Pete, what do you say? Shall we talk a little bit about interlocking? Because I know it's something that I do, like you stated earlier, that I do lots of events all over the world. And it's something that I see on a day-to-day basis. And it's something that kids struggle with, and adults as well, is their model, they might be building up this cool castle or maybe this wicked awesome car, and the model starts falling apart on them. And it's largely because of the lack of interlocking. So I'm going to show you an example here of bad interlocking, actually. So if you guys look at this here, you can see these are all stacked up. These are 2x4 Duplo bricks, and they're all stacked up. And it's really, it just falls apart. It's not very strong. It's very weak. Now, there's some things that you can do to really make a much stronger model, and it's the process of overlapping seams. So I'm going to show you this one here. Now, if you look at this, there's a really big difference between this model and any other model. A difference between this model and this model, I'm sorry. So this model here has all the seams overlapped. And if I were to pull down on these edges, it's really strong. There's a big difference between these two models. So this is a nice, strong, stable model, where this model is weak. So when you build your structures, you build your models, you want to try to interlock them the best of your ability. And that's really what I did here as well. So all these seams are overlapping, even though we have some seams right here. the bricks above, overlap them to make a nice, strong, stable model. So when you're building, that's the types of things that I would encourage you to do every time you build with your Lego bricks at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't know if Sam has any questions for us from the community.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, guys. So just a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions for Chris and Pete about being a Lego Master Model Builder, any advice on building, go ahead and put that in the Q&A. I'm compiling a list now that the guys will answer for you, so go down to that Q&A. And just a reminder, as we mentioned, for the builds that we did, the rocket that we mentioned and the car that Pete went through, we will send out an email after the session with building instructions and building inspiration images for you. So if you missed anything, that'll come to your email. So great. First question for you guys. You've heard it, had it before. How do you become a Lego Master Model Builder?
The $1 million question.
$1 million question. I'll start, I guess. For me, it was a little bit of luck and timing and a real fan childhood of Lego. I started out as a model builder gluer trainee. Chris will give you the spiel about how we do, unfortunately, glue our models together, but I don't see it as unfortunate all the time because it allows us to ship our models all around the world and do what we want to do of inspiring people. I see it as the Lego building sets you buy in the store. They give you this really nice encyclopedia or skill set of how to use the Lego elements. Our goal is to try and take that beyond the box. So we build life-size characters, my favorite model being Thanos from the Infinity War movies. We made it one-to-one. So yeah, gluing the models together. I started out doing that right out of high school, actually, just kind of got lucky. And then I tailored my education into design, and now I work primarily under the design function. But we all have our own path to getting here. Chris will tell you his. It's really interesting. But I would say if I give you any tips, it's technology is really important, art and visual skills. But really, as a youngin', you got to keep those skills in terms of mathematics and all the basics in line as well, because it's about a whole different collection of topics that you have to be able to create models in and for. But Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Pete. You know, in the end, I think Pete said it. We look for artists. We're people who are very creative in general. We're looked at as the ambassadors of the brick. So we are very good at articulating our thoughts through Lego bricks. So we look for creative people. Now, how I got into Lego is I actually started off playing with Lego probably at the age of many of you who are here at around 6 years old. I was really getting into Lego, building every day with my father and my siblings. But it was actually my father who really enjoyed building so much that he was able to, through a friend of his, get an interview in the model shop where we work. And he got a job in the model shop as a model builder trainee, then rose through the ranks to eventually become a master model builder. So that was the best moment for me because that meant I had a lot more Lego during the holidays. So I grew up with a master builder for a father. So it was a pretty awesome childhood as far as my Lego building was concerned. I actually started in Lego professionally as an intern in high school. And I would come in and do all the things that the master builders didn't have time to do. So if we had, let's say, 100 of these little widgets or 100 of these cars needed to be built, I would go ahead and build 100 of those cars. And from there, I went off and did carpentry work. I was a carpenter, woodworker, furniture maker. And then finally, Lego called me back, and I've been now full-time at Lego for 13 years. So, to bring it back around, there really is no true, straight, direct path to becoming a master model builder. It's a lot of on-the-job training in the end. But there's definitely some key things like Pete said, and that is art-based, having a good, solid background from school, with mathematics. Geometry is definitely going to be key because we work in a lot of programs that, you have to design virtual models, and knowing a little bit of geometry and how things fit together is very key to what we do. So I would say art in the end is a big thing that we would look for an artist.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So another one, hopefully is easy for you, each of you. the biggest, coolest, most memorable model that you've ever made?
Oh,
So mine is simple. I just mentioned Thanos, which was probably the biggest person I made, but a few years before that, I got involved in recreating Bilbo Baggins' house, which was a Lego set for the Lord of the Rings product line. And that was probably, in terms of a historical monumental moment for me at Lego, that was it. I got to be the lead designer on that. I got to take charge over the production, and we did it with a really junior team. So people like Chris was describing of his internship, it was people that were at that that level, sorry. They hadn't really built a lot with Lego, and our timeline was really tight. And there's actually a really nice documentary about it on the internet. If you get your parents' permission, maybe you could look it up. But to me, that's the biggest thing I ever made. So rad. It had, steam coming out of the chimney, lights in all the fireplaces and the areas that made sense. That was probably my biggest, most impactful, and personally prideful moments as I was in Lego. Chris, what's yours?
yeah, no, I agree, Pete. That was a cool project. So more recent than that was we built last year for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, which you can see by my shirt here. I like space-themed stuff. So we actually built a massive 20-foot tall SLS rocket, which is hopefully going to be the rocket that's going to be sending the astronauts to Mars in the very near future. So we built that 20 feet tall with the help of people just like you, right on the Washington Mall. And we built that for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing. So that was a lot of fun. It was super hot out there, so we were building it in, direct sunlight all day long, and about 112 degrees, I think, was the highest it got up to. So it was pretty miserable as far as the temperature was concerned, but it was still by far one of the best events I've done in a long time.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a good one.
And I think you made a model for that, didn't you, too, Pete? You made the astronaut, right?
Size astronaut, yep. And I was
yeah.
So a lot of my day-to-day job is conceptual. So I'll work with Chris if it's an event, and we'll come up with brainstormed ideas, and then I'll sketch them out, just like any artist. If I was working in marble or any other art form, you start on paper with a pen and paper rather, and you draw it out. So I got to work with Chris on conceiving the Sls Rocket and how that would all go together. That was a really fun multi-person project. So good selection, Chris.
Yeah.
Awesome. Touching on something I think Chris mentioned before, somebody wanted to know, could you discuss glue? Why do we glue our models, and where do we get our glue?
Yeah. That's a question we always get asked is can we glue our Lego models together, number one? And number two, what do you use? And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, we don't recommend it. It's not something that we would recommend you do at home. We have to glue our models because our models are oftentimes life-size human models. They travel all over the world. And the problem with that is they go in trucks, and they go on planes and cars, and they get bounced around. And no matter how much we interlock these our models, if they get dropped off by a forklift or smashed around in a truck, it's just not going to be able to withstand that type of abuse. So we take it a few steps farther. Actually, we glue our models together with it. It's actually not a glue; it's a solvent. It actually melts the Lego tubes here, and they melt down to the bricks below and create more or less a welded bond. And then we take it even a step farther than that. We'll add in steel to our models as well. So we'll take and put steel more or less as an internal skeleton on any human type model, as well as any model that may have particular areas that might be vulnerable to being broken.
Yeah, and I would say the one thing that we always want to point out is when people hear that we use glue, it is not to make up for the fundamentals of a strong model. So our models will carry themselves under their own weight. If we make a human, it will not fall over unless it's designed to be in motion, which at that point you would have to support it anyways. But all of our models, you could build at home. Again, as an important factor in what we do, inspiration. So we don't want to show people things that wouldn't work and become frustrating. So don't think of the glue as a an easier way to make things happen. It's just there so that shipping and the lifetime of the model can be as long as possible, so as many eyeballs and human beings get to experience it in the real world. So.
Yeah, that's perfect, Pete.
Great. Next question was kind of more abstract. What challenges do you face being creative as a master builder? And like, how do you deal with a tough situation when your model doesn't work out right and you have to start over or change your plans? How do you do that?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say that when I'm asked what a master model builder is, if I don't have a lot of time to answer it, I kind of always just default to the idea that a master model builder can solve any question or problem with Lego brick. So that's a really good question because it gives the opportunity to maybe elaborate on that or to share some more deep insight. So how do you do it? It really is based on the question that you're being posed in the moment. So each problem is going to provide a different solution. But for me, it's really, in terms of staying inspired, Lego changes and evolves year over year. So the Lego that I work for now, and Chris mentioned he's been here for 13 years. I started back in the 90s. I've been here for 23 years this year. I actually got to work with Chris's dad for about 10 years before Chris started. And I can see where Chris got his passions from. But it's from the technology we use on a day-to-day basis. You're constantly having to learn and evolve. We use all the same tools that professionals in the field of animation or video game development use, all the same tools as us. We also have to have an internal Lego developed and supplied software that allows us to design with Lego on top of those software. So that in and of itself provides a lot of constant education, training, and new knowledge, which is always fun. I love that. But the Lego product itself, the Lego elements that everyone plays with at home and we play with at work, those change and evolve. New parts get introduced. When we were building the car, I talked about the plate that had the studs coming off the side. So learning how to use those with your old knowledge can, every year it almost changes and evolves and becomes a whole new experience. So I always would say, if you ask me to design a cat today, the cat I will design tomorrow will be so much different because I'll have a whole different collection of colors, shapes, just functional elements, like again, with the studs on the side. So for me, the inspirational piece just comes naturally from how Lego as a company creates the product that we all know and love. In terms of solving problems, Chris, that's a crazy question, right? That's a question.
Yeah.
That's a question you could answer for days.
Yeah, it is. And I think and a good example of that would be, it's largely a team-based thing. So, we have a group of master builders, and we also have model builders and project managers, all part of the same team in the model shop. And we're all working towards the same end goal, which is this really awesome life-size sculpture or whatever it is that we happen to be building. And oftentimes our meetings start with a bit of brainstorming around whether or not it's a new model that we're going to be creating. And it's really fun because you might say something, Pete, that is totally off the wall, doesn't make any sense for this project, and is just something so far out there that would never work, but it might get me thinking about something that will actually work for this project, because something you said kind of sparked a little bit of imagination in myself. So I get a lot out of those types of moments when we're working as a team. We're having a brainstorm. Everyone's just throwing out crazy ideas, and then eventually it really boils down to the final product that ends up being so much better, in my opinion, that way.
Yeah, definitely.
So hopefully that answered your question.
Great.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Pete.
No,
Thanks, guys. Yep, so we are getting close to our time here. So if you have any last minute questions for Chris and Pete, please throw them in the Q&A. We'll do a few more questions, and then we really want to see what models everyone in the session here has built. So we're going to ask you to share your builds with Chris and Pete, and we'll discuss them, any tips and tricks about building your cars. So get ready to share your models, make any final finishing touches if you've been free building, and put your final questions in the Q&A. So a good question that we get a lot is, what's the difference between you guys and master builders who work at Legoland and the master builders that everyone saw on Lego Masters?
I would say that my first swing, the master builders on Lego Masters, I'm assuming they're referring to Jamie and Amy, who were the hosts in Lego representation. They work in the PMD group, which stands for Products, Marketing, and Development, I believe. So they create the sets that you can purchase in the store, just to keep it really simple. Master builders within the Lego parks, their function is a little bit different because they will build and maintain a specific project to a store or to a park, and they will maintain things within that world. Master model builders, being Chris and myself, we get to work on projects for anything Lego has going on. It can be something for a fellow model shop. We're one of 3 that Lego has globally. There's one in Billund, one in the Kladno, which is a small area right outside of Prague in the Czech Republic. And we have one here in Enfield, Connecticut in the United States. So we might support each other, but we might also build a car for an external company. We might build characters for Comic-Con, but we really focus it, just to kind of simplify it and make it a little bit less long of a question. We really focus our energies on events and on models that are art-based and have a marketing purpose to help bring awareness to Lego. And kind of, again, I just keep falling back on the same mantra of inspiration. We're here to kind of show people what you can do outside of the box. So taking the instructions and pushing them aside, mashing together a huge collection of Lego pieces, we can build just about anything. And that's kind of what makes us different. Again, Legoland people focus on just the park or store that they're working in, and they're usually doing Miniland, which is kind of a scaled model based on a figure that's about this tall. And that's their focus. And then Jamie and Amy from Masters, they work in the PMD, so they're developing the kits that you will buy in the store. Those are high-level differences, right, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I think really what it comes down to too is, we have access to work across the breadth of whatever it is, whether it's Marvel or Disney or Spider-Man. It doesn't really matter what it is. We get to work with just about everything Lego related out there, including companies that aren't necessarily Lego as well, building life-size cars. So I think you nailed it, Pete.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So yeah, I'm hearing that unfortunately, the way the class is set up, we won't be able to turn our cameras on to see what everyone has built live right now. So we're sorry about that. We're going to have to ask everybody, like we said, to get on social media and share your models with #Lego and #MakeItWithMichaels. We'd love to see them there. But thank you for building. Sorry that we can't look at them right now, but the guys would love to see them on social later. And as we mentioned, you can definitely check out the building instructions after the class to keep building and see a recording of the class tomorrow on michaels.com/classes. So we'll just answer another quick question and we'll probably wrap up early, but a good question, even though we can't see your models, is what's some good tips and tricks, guys, for anyone out there who's looking to improve on their home building? What are some insider tips for them?
That is a good question.
Yeah, you gave a good one already, Chris, with your interlocking.
Interlocking, yeah. Go ahead, B, if you want to start this one.
So I think one thing that we can focus on that maybe we don't really share as often anymore because we haven't done events like this in quite some time now, given the current situation that the world finds itself in, is scaling. And that's, Chris was mentioning he did a rocket ship, and the way we design that and we make it work is we create, I think I actually can dig in. I got my Lego trays of bricks behind me here. So this, if you guys are wondering, this is what our bricks look like in our shop. It's kind of cool that I have that at my house now. All of the kids think it's super cool. So one thing we'll do is we'll take this 2x4 brick and we will recreate that as I will demonstrate right now as I explain it. Hopefully I'm not totally off camera, just kind of add this, but we can do a scaled version of the same brick. And the reason that we would do that is so we could take a model and we would design the whole thing out of this brick. And then we would ask kids to come on site, they'd build this brick, and we would recreate our prototype, replacing all of these bricks with this brick, and you would have a model that's twice the size. So that's how Chris was able to build a rocket. So I mention that now because Duplo is actually a scale that is relevant to the Lego brick. So if you have Duplo bricks kicking around and you wanted to build something big, like you wanted to make a mountain range to put a castle on, you wanted to make something, I don't know, you wanted to make a garage to put your cars in. Using Duplo and Lego, they actually blend together. We don't typically encourage that because we don't want younger kids to do it. But if you are an older user who has Duplo, you can mix your Lego and Duplo together. Again, but you could also just take something simple and make a small design and then just scale it up. So take a 2x4 and make a variant of it, which I would try to explain, but I'm sure I do a really bad job. But this is basically double the size of this. So there's 8 studs versus 4 studs, and then there's 4 studs versus 2 studs. You get a scaled up version of this. Okay. You could do that with a house building or something else. Chris, what do you got? You got a tip over there for me?
Yeah.
Got tongue tied?
No, I was just going to say a good way to, maybe potentially build multiple things, maybe potentially quicker too, because you have access to a lot more brick, would be to build them virtually using something like Lego Digital Designer or 3D Studio, right? I believe Studio is available still, right, Pete?
That is correct. You can get a copy of that on bricklink.com.
Yep. So it's free. It's a free software that you guys can download at home, bricklink.com, and it basically allows you to build your creation virtually first. So I know a lot of you kids are, working a lot on the computers nowadays, which is great, and you can actually start your building experience there, which allows you to take and make quick changes to your model. So you can take and build up a car and very quickly remove bricks and add in new ones. And that's just a good way to also kind of work in that 3D environment and get used to that whole process of building virtually, because that's something that we do every day as well. But then at the end, you can have a rudimentary building instruction that you can follow and dig through your bricks at home to actually build that. So working virtually is another way to push the boundaries of your abilities as well.
So I don't know if we have the time, but assuming we do, I will go over one more thing, and that's a great tip, by the way, Chris. And from our perspective, it's faster, and it allows us to make something really large without physically creating it. So digital is very key to our process. I mentioned earlier on the difference between a brick and a plate, so I just want to show that. Here's a plate, which is just a little tiny. It's thin. Some people call it a thin brick, which is always cute. I think it's funny. And this is actually a brick. And the difference between these two is if you stack this up 3 times, it's the same height as this brick. Other than that, they're dimensionally or size-wise exactly the same. If you take that same knowledge and you were to stack 5 plates, so you can see here I've alternated the color. So it's gray, purple, gray, purple, gray. This is 5 plates tall, so it's or a brick and 2 plates tall. That is the same size as this. So when you start to incorporate or start to add in the bricks that let you put the studs on the side, you can dimensionally get crazy and make really cool things. So this is 5 plates. You can come off the side of it now, and it's exactly the same size. So this allows us to add details. If you're trying to make words, if you're trying to make eyeballs in a head, this one tip will get you super far. It'll really get you advanced in making really cool stuff that will make it look like you know everything there is to know about Lego. And really, it's one of the best things that I ever learned, and it's really expanded what I'm able to create. So I thought I would share that with you guys. So again, 5 plates, same as 2 studs.
Awesome. That's a good one, Pete. I like it.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. So we're going to wrap up the session today. Thank you again to everyone for all of your wonderful questions and for building along with us. Just one more reminder that you can go to michaels.com/classes to see the session recorded tomorrow. You can also go to michaels.com/kidsclub online to sign up for more future sessions with Michaels. And of course, again, share your creations on social media with #Lego and #MakeItWithMichaels. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, like Sam said, make sure you check out all those locations. And thank you very much for joining us today. We had a great time. Pete, I don't know about you, but I had a good time.
Yeah, this was great. This is one of my favorite things to do, to get to share what we do and share the magic and what's possible with the Lego system is awesome. And hopefully you guys are leaving here a little bit wiser in terms of things you now have as a member. Build your car, strength from front to back, change the parts when you need to or want to, more often when you want to, but really just have fun, take it to the next level, experiment, explore, and make really cool stuff. Share it on, again, Make It With Michaels or #Lego, and I know a lot of people say these things, and I don't know if they always mean it, but Chris and I want to check these things out. We love to see what everyone's creating. Sometimes you guys have ideas that we never thought of, and we appreciate you sharing knowledge back with us. So thanks for letting us be here. I had a great time. Chris already confirmed that himself. Really appreciate it. Until next time, thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.